fractions within fractions. That's what a complex fraction is. It's a fraction that contains fractions within the numerator or within the denominator or within both. Now, this exercise 1, here's my fraction. Here's my overall numerator divided by my overall denominator. My numerator contains fractions, so there's fractions within the greater fraction, and my denominator is a fraction within the greater fraction. So to simplify these, there are a couple methods. I'm going to choose to just teach you one so you don't get confused. And the first thing you have to do is this. Find the least common denominator of all the denominators of the fractions within the fraction. So that would be a denominator of 9, a denominator of 18, and a denominator of 3. Those are the denominators within the fraction. Does that make sense? Denominators of the fractions within the fraction. What is the least common multiple of 9, 18, and 3? Andrew? 18. When you find that, you multiply the numerator by 18, the larger, the whole numerator, and the whole denominator. And watch what will happen and how this will clear the complexity that's going on. Because this is a binomial, I have to do what in the numerator when I multiply? If you multiply a binomial times a number, you have to distribute. 18 times 1/9 is 18 ninths. What is 18 ninths? 2. Plus 18 times 1/18 is 18 eighteenths, which is what? 1. And now my denominator, 18 times 1/3 is 18 thirds, which is 6. So then we just have 3 over 6, which is 1/2, and our complexity is gone. Okay? So numerically, that's how it works. Let's jump down to this C. My denominators are 8, 4x, 2x, 4. What is the least common denominator of all of those? Boom. 8 for the numbers, but what about the variable portion? 8x. 8x, so least common denominator equals 8x. If I were to make them all the same. So I'm not doing that. I'm just going to multiply the numerator by 8x and the denominator by 8x. So again, in my numerator, I have to distribute. What is 8x times 3/8? What'd you say, Nathan? Right, 24. You only multiply this by the numerator, so that's 24x eighths plus, and we'll simplify that in a moment. 8x times 1 over 4x is 8x over 4x. All over. 8x times 7 over 2x is 56x over 2x. And 8x times 3/4 is 24x fourths. So what happens if you truly choose the least common denominator is all of those should always reduce nicely. 24x divided by 8 is what? 8x divided by 4x is 2. 56x divided by 2x is 28. And 24x divided by 4 is 6x. There you go. In this particular case, if you want to switch around the order of your denominator, you can. If you want to factor a 2, is it? out of your denominator? You can. So your denominator could be any one of these three versions. Even if you factor your denominator, nothing cancels with the 3x plus 2. So that's about as far as you can go. Do we follow? Okay? So if we jump down to exercise A, with polynomial denominators, what do you have to do before you're going to be able to tell me what the least common denominator is? Factor the denominators. So this particular one is x minus 4, x plus 2. So now if I look at the denominators of the fractions within the larger fraction, I have x plus 2, x minus 4, and then x plus 2, x minus 4. So between those three denominators, what would the least common denominator be? X plus 2, x minus 4. Okay, one denominator is x plus 2. You don't need to write this. One denominator is x minus 4, and the third denominator is x minus 4, x plus 2. If I wanted them all to be the same, this one just needs an x plus 2, this one needs an x minus 4. So the common denominator would end up being what this one already has, x minus 4, x plus 2. So I multiply the numerator by x minus 4, x plus 2, and I multiply the denominator by x minus 4, x plus 2. And still, my numerator was a binomial, so I'm going to have to distribute. So watch what happens when I take this and distribute it. What's going to happen on that first distribution? Because this x plus 2 is going to cancel with that x plus 2. Do you see it? So I'll just have the 4 times the x minus 4. On my second distribution, what's going to cancel from this fraction and this multiplier? The x minus 4 in the denominator is going to cancel with the x minus 4, so I'll just have 2 with the x plus 2. That's my entire numerator now. In my denominator, when I multiply this by the only fraction there, the x minus 4 will cancel and the x plus 2 will cancel, and I'll just have 12x minus 24. And the complexity of your fractions is gone. We'll just distribute and combine like terms in our numerator and simplify from there. Does that make sense? So go ahead and do that. 4x minus 16 plus 2x plus 4. Combine like terms in your numerator. And then see if you can factor and cancel that fraction. Do not do number 6 on the homework, just 1 through 5. So this became 6x minus 12 over 12x minus 24. That's my single fraction, right? And then I can factor out of 6, x minus 2. I can factor out of 12, x minus 2. Your x minus 2's cancel, and this whole thing boils down to what? 1/2, exactly. So you're just doing 1 through 5. What's that? Just don't do number 6. Did that fix up your issue?
Yes, I used to do that.
Okay.
So,
Yep. Yep.
I have a few problems fixing the homework. Can I just hand it in after the next period?
Yes. Thanks, Nathan. You too. Bye, Andrew.